What's going on, everybody? What's going on, everybody? It's Wade's word of the day. Wade's word of the day. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. Everybody come in the room. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk. It's Wade's word of the day. Wade's word of the day. Who's hanging out with us tonight? Come on in. Come on in. Let's talk. Let's talk. Yeah, who's hanging out with us tonight? I said it's Wade's word of the day, and it's the remix. It's the remix. So come on in the room. Come on in the room. Let's talk. Let's talk tonight. Let's hang out at least for a few moments. For a few moments on tonight. Who is hanging out with me? I said it's Wade's word of the day. Audrey Barnes Lee, what's going on? Good to see you this evening. Man, it's Wade's word of the day. It's the remix. Come on, I need everybody to like and share as you come in the room. Make sure you like and share. Like and share. Rodney, what's going on, Doc? Come on, tag, text, like and share. Like and share. Good evening. Good evening to everyone. Good evening to everyone. Come on in the room. Let's talk. Let's talk. Who else is hanging out with us tonight? Who else is hanging out with us tonight? Ray, what's going on, Doc? What's going on, Doc? Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for coming in the room. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Hello, Fear. Let's talk. Who else is in the room? Who has made them their way in the room? Mother Mary Porter. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for coming in the room. Man, it's Wade's word of the day. Wade's word of the day. Come on, like and share. Send your boy. All right, sound loud and clear. Thank you so much, Ray. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Come on in the room. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk. Y'all know every Sunday night we do the remix. We do the remix. Tonight, we're also going to take communion. We're going to take communion as well. So make sure, if you didn't get the word, tonight we're going to take communion, just switching things up a little bit. So just make sure you get a little juice, a little cracker. And if that's what you celebrate, come on, celebrate with us. We're just going to take communion real quick tonight. Man, I'm excited to be with you all. Lucille Murray, what's going on? Good to see you. Good to see you. Duchess Scott, what's going on? Come on, tag somebody. Tag somebody, text somebody, tell them it's 8 p.m. and it's time for Wade's word of the day. Who else is in the room? Who else is in the room tonight? Come on in, come on in. Let's talk, let's talk, let's talk. Man, I'm excited. I'm excited to be with you all. Yeah. I'm just trying to get my little communion thing together for when we are ready, for when we are ready. Who else? Who else is in the room? Come on in the room. It's Sunday night. It's the remix. If you're excited about the remix, do me a favor. Just take that finger and go ahead and type it on in there. Let everybody know it's the remix. I see Linda Smith, Auntie Linda. Thank you for coming in the room. Kelvin Parks, what's going on, my brother? Thank you for coming in the room. Who else is hanging out with us tonight? Who else is hanging out with us tonight? Come on in the room. Let's talk. Let's talk. Hey, let's go ahead and get started. Y'all know the way that we do it. We come into the space every night, not to tear down, but to lift up, to encourage, to let you know that God will, in fact, get glory out of this, to let our situations and our circumstances know, hey, listen, our negative self-talk, our haters, our fears, we show up in this space to let them know that we're showing up in spite of you. Yeah, that's what we tell fear. There is no fear in us. We're showing up in spite of you. This is what we're telling our negative self-talk. Hey, we're going to be positive today because God is on our side. Thus we say, hello. Yeah, that's what we say to all of those things that would try to block us and stop us. We say, hello, we showed up in the space anyhow, in spite of you. In spite of you, thus we say, hello, fear. Let's talk. Come on, let's get it started. It's Wade's word of the day. And it's the remix. Here we go.
Man, it's 8 o'clock. Grab your smartphones, log into Facebook. It's time to get ready for Wade's Word of the Day.
Good word, yes you did. I heard a word one day. I heard spoke to me. Yes, he did. And this is what he had to say.
Hello LHBC, it's me, sir, and it's time for Wade's Word of the Day.
You did. I heard a word one day.
Hello, are you ready for the word of the day?
Every day you cared for me in a special way. You are the reason why I'm here today. I was made to bless your name. I bless your name. Oh, I bless your name for everything that you've done for me. You spoke to me. You spoke to me.
Let's get ready for the word of the day.
Man, it's Wade's Word of the Day. And it's the remix, y'all. It's the remix, y'all. Mondukes is coming to the room. Matty Vale is coming to the room. Good to see you. Good to see you. Listen, like and share real quick. Come on, tag 3 people. Just type their name in the comments and tell them, hey, it's 8 p.m. It's time for Wade's Word of the Day. Tell them to come on in the room. Just tag their name. Just type their name in and hit send. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Like and share on tonight. Like and share on tonight. Let's get right to it. Let's get right to it. Because Sunday night, we don't stay in the space long, but it is, in fact, the remix. Isn't it interesting how change is the only consistent thing that happens in our lives? And so this morning, that's what we talked about. We talked about the fact that all of us are going through changes. It's okay. It's all right. Yeah, because we all are. Change is, in fact, the only consistent thing in life. Some of y'all remember when you were 10 years old and now you are 40 years old. And you know, in that span of 30 years, some change has happened because change is the only thing that's consistent in our lives. Think about the song, the lyrics to the words to the lyrics to the song of William Murphy. His song Change, and it says, everything was going right. It was in the prime of my life. I was doing the best I've ever done. Then I started to go through some changes. All of a sudden, my days were not as bright. I was asking the Lord, what is the world is going on? Then I heard the song say, you're going through some changes, but you say you want to change. In order to change, you got to go through some changes. Yeah. Those of you who didn't catch Sundays with LHB, see this morning, it's the remix tonight. I need you to know, if you're talking about change, but in order to change, you got to go through some changes. I know it may be tough, may be difficult, may be hard, but if you want to change, expect some changes. And we talked about how the nation of Israel, in fact, was going through a change. Prophet Isaiah says, in the year that the king died, that speaks about transition. Transition is in the air. And can I argue tonight that transition is really in the air for all of us? Yeah, we've been shifted into this new norm thing. And I know some of us are fighting it. Some of us are finding it difficult. Even some of us are finding it problematic, but transition is in the air. Prophet Isaiah says, in the year that the king died, and if you understand anything historically around Israel or the notion of a king and transition, you know that brings about uncertainty. And the companion of change is in fact uncertainty. Somebody ought to say, I know that's right. Have you ever noticed that the people who spend a lot of time talking about others should change to only fail, that really they are the ones who need to change, and then all of a sudden change becomes a problem because the companion of change is uncertainty? Because when I move into change, I move into the unfamiliar. I move into spaces and places that are not comfortable. I move into places and spaces that are unfamiliar. Have you ever noticed a child up until they're about 5 years old, they understand what the norm is. Hey, I'm with my parents, but then kindergarten, and you get them all dressed up and they look at you like, what's going on? And then you take them outside and the bus is coming. They say, Mama, I don't want to go. Because even though they're getting older and they're walking and they're talking and they're growing, anytime change comes, it comes with this share of uncertainty. Mm-hmm. You know, that individual who worked at the same job for 25 years only to discover that I've been laid off, I've been furloughed. Now, probably for those 25 years, you've been talking about, man, I can't wait to get up out of here. But then when that change came, got a little fearful, but because uncertainty comes with change. What am I going to do next? The prophet says, in the year that the king died, uncertainty comes in the land. Can I argue tonight that when one looks at the text, that the nation of Israel is going through some changes? And I don't know about you, but can you sense, can you connect what is going on with them and what is going on with now? Can you see as they saw? This means community might change. This means culture might change. This means that the climate might change. Yeah, the nation of Israel is going through some changes. And just like them, you and I are going through some changes too. We too feel in 2020 the dislocation and the disturbance that is going on within the context of our communities, our culture, our context. Somebody ought to say, I know that's right. Yeah, I know that's right. Yeah. We are all experiencing, if you will, change. And Dr. Glaude said something as it relates to America that I think is worth repeating. He said the problem with what's happening in our culture, what's going on in our world, I'm not talking about what's happening over there. I ain't talking about China. I ain't talking about Japan. I ain't talking about the Middle East. I'm talking about what's happening right here. Dr. Glaude said, and I quote, America is not unique in its sins. It's not unique in its evils. He said, but the difference, the singular difference is our refusal to acknowledge those sins and those evils. And so we get caught up in legends and myths, and we tell ourselves about this inherent goodness that we have to hide and cover and conceal so that we can maintain this willful ignorance that protects our ignorance. End quote. Yeah, he says the reason why we're seeing some of the things that we're seeing because we're in the midst of transition. But up until this point, we've been so accustomed to not seeing what we see, or to act like we don't see what we see. Have you been on social media lately? Have you seen the comments around any discussion about what's happening in our world and some people's failure to even acknowledge it? Yeah, just the other day, someone said, I want to get rid of all of the trainings around this because it's a myth. That's not America. failing to realize that this country was built, bought, paid for through white supremacy. So it is our failure to acknowledge it, Dr. Claude says, in order that we might protect this sense of innocence, that we can continue living with ourselves and keep on sharing the lies about the fact that this is the greatest country in the world. Somebody ought to say, I know that's right. But contrary to popular opinion, 2020 is in fact the year of vision. I know some folk, when you look at them on social media and all of this stuff, they talking about, y'all was talking about 2020, the year of vision, because people ain't really seeing what they seeing. Because the reality is 2020 has been the year of vision because it's forcing you and I. It's the remix, y'all. It's forcing us, all of us, to confront the past that up until this point we refuse to acknowledge. Ain't no quick kumbayas in this moment because 2020 is exposing everything. Yeah, it's the year of vision. It's causing us to see what in the past we did not want to see. Somebody ought to say, I know that's right. 2020 has forced us to deal with the change as it relates to how we see our world, as it relates to health and health care, the haves and the have-nots. I said this morning, you ain't got to turn on the OWN network and check out Tyler Perry concerning the haves and the have-nots. We dealing with that live and in color. Change as it relates to how we move in the world. Yeah, you ain't walking out the house without your mask on. It used to be where you go, and now it's you got your mask on. So even in the ways that we move and we navigate our lives, even the questions that are being asked, the concerns that are being waged, it's forcing us to change. You better not sneeze without putting that mask on. You understand what I'm saying? It's forcing us to deal with change. It's forcing us to change as it relates to how we deal with Black folk and people of color. Because Black folk today are not passive and nonviolent, if you will. In other words, Black folk today will tell you how they really feel. Somebody ought to say, I know. That's right. Change is how we deal with police and how we are doing our policing. And if I can look at the deacon on the front row in the room tonight with the Stacey Adams in the three-piece suit, even how we church. Yeah. How we church. How we define church and what church is today. Is it just simply about, woo, pastor sure did preach? Nowadays, like, pastor better be able to teach. Woo, we sure did dance. You better find a way to create a space in your own place to invite God to your own abode. So even our definitions about how we went about doing what we're doing, even as it relates to church, ain't too much on this platform of, and the Lord said, bother your neighbor, tell your neighbor, 3 pigs in a blanket, get me a hot dog. Pigs and blanket. Yeah. See, ain't too much of that stuff no more. You got to be able to stand flat foot. Look through the screen at nobody, see nobody, and just be able to declare what thus saith the Lord. Somebody ought to say, I know that's right. Yes, we are a society that is dealing with change. And don't think it's strange, because here's the reality. Change is difficult. Change is challenging. I mean, 2020 has caused some of us to face some challenges. It has caused this generation to see some things that none of us have never seen before. And if you're honest with yourself, there have been points when it's troubled you, when it's tried you, when it's tested you like never before. Yeah, like I said, like never before. You see yourself as being peaceful, but 2020 has tested your patience. You see yourself as being loving, but you discovered in 2020 there's some folk who almost made you cuss. Yeah, 2020 has tested us and tried us and troubled us like nobody's business. Some folk who you thought were an ally, who were on your side, and you seeing them on social media and you saying, who is this person? They're saying some things that have frustrated you, have upset you. I hear Bob Marley saying, we build your penitentiaries, we build your schools. You brainwashed us with your education to make us fools. Yeah, frustrated, tired, troubled. I hear the Isley brothers saying, I can't play my music. They say my music too loud. I keep talking about it, but they give me the big runaround. And when I roll with the punches, I get knocked to the ground because of all of this nonsense that's going down. Grandmaster Flash, for some of y'all old heads, I hear him saying, don't push me because I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle. Sometimes it makes me wonder how I keep going under. Yeah, I dare you to text and tag somebody tonight during the remix and tell them I'm going through some changes. Yeah, I'm going through some changes. But the good news tonight, those of you who have come into the virtual room, the good news tonight, did I tell you it's the remix? The good news tonight is that Isaiah teaches us that God shows up in the midst of our changes. Somebody ought to say, I know that's right. Yeah. It's the remix, but that remains the same. Somebody need God shows up in the midst of our changes. That's why, even though I'm tried, I've been tested, I've been troubled. Some folk almost made me want to cuss. Some folk almost made me want to act the fool and cut up. But I'm still encouraged. I still got hope for the rest of 2020, because what I discovered is that God shows up in the midst of my changes. Is there anybody in the room tonight who would agree with Pastor Wade and just simply take your fingertip and say, I know that's right? Isaiah teaches us God shows up when I'm going through changes. And I don't know about you, but that's good news. Even on a Sunday night, even in the midst of the remix, I said that's good news. Because Isaiah says, he says in the year of transition, in the year of death, in the year when change is happening, uncertainty is happening, he said, I saw the Lord. One good day, it was a bad day. Everything wasn't put together. Everything wasn't pristine. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't pleasing. He says, in the midst of death, in the midst of transition, in the midst of change, in the midst of confusion, he said, I saw the Lord high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Isaiah says, in the midst of my change, I saw the Lord. And I'm so glad today. I'm so glad tonight that he is a God who keeps on showing up. I'm ready to shout right now, even on a Sunday night, even in the midst of the remix, because I'm thinking about how God keeps on showing up. Is there anybody in the room tonight who would testify with me just by taking your finger and saying, he keeps on showing up? Yeah, he keeps on showing up even in the midst of my changes. He keeps on showing up. This is how I know everything is going to be all right. This is why I can say I got a feeling everything is going to be all right. I feel it down in my shana now. Yeah, everything is going to be all right because he keeps on showing up. Is there anybody who would testify with me tonight that the Lord keeps on showing up? I may be going through some changes, but he keeps on showing up. He keeps brightening my day. He keeps letting me know that all will be well. He keeps picking me up, turning me around, placing my feet on a higher ground. Yeah, he keeps on showing up. Food on table, clothes on back. Yeah, he keeps on showing up even though I'm going through some changes. And so when folk write me and testify about how God kept them in the midst of their surgery, maybe going through, but he keeps on showing up. How somebody confirms that what you may be doing and how it's blessing them. You can declare, I'm going through changes, but he keeps on showing up. When somebody says, I appreciate you and I thank you that you bring value to my life, you can say, hey, I may be going through some changes, but he keeps on showing up. Can anybody just take their finger tonight in this room and say, hey, he keeps on showing up. Isaiah says, in the midst of my change, he keeps on showing up. And I need somebody to know tonight, hey, the Uzziahs in your life may be dead, but God is in fact still alive. Somebody ought to say, I know that's right. I know pandemic. I know police brutality. I know all of this nonsense, white supremacy, and all of these things that we're wrestling with, furloughs and layoffs and masks and sanitizer and all of these things. Hey, but he keeps on showing up. Why? Because he's still alive. Yeah, he's still alive. And the same God that brought you through the changes of your life in the past is the same God who can bring you through the changes of 2020. Somebody ought to say, I know that's right, dog. Yeah. The same God that brought you through the changes of your past is the same God that can bring you through the rest of 2020. Somebody ought to say, I know that's right, dog. Yeah, he can do it because he keeps on showing up. And I'm glad tonight that he's in control, because Isaiah said, in the midst of the trials, in the midst of the tests, in the midst of the trouble, I saw the Lord sitting upon his throne. In other words, Isaiah wants us to know that God understands and that God can handle your stuff. And the last time I checked, heaven is not coming apart at the seams. God is not at his wits' end concerning you. He's in control. He knows what you're dealing with. He knows what you're going through. He knows what you're wrestling with. So you can be at peace tonight because he is a God who keeps on showing up. Number two, and I'm out of here. Isaiah says he's omnipotent. He's all powerful. That's simply what it means. He says that he's seated on the throne, and that speaks to authority. In other words, Isaiah wants us to know he is, in fact, Big G, and everybody else is little g. Says, I saw the Lord high and lifted up, and he was sitting on his throne, and his glory filled the temple. Can I suggest to you tonight that God's throne is higher than any other throne, that God's power is superior than any other's power? I don't care what so-and-so is saying, the 1600 Black Lives Matter. I don't care what they saying up there at the Capitol in Hartford or wherever your capital is. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's larger than all of that. Somebody ought to say, I know that's right, because he's superior to all of that. He says, my counsel shall stand, and I will accomplish my purpose. Yeah. That which I set forth shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that thing for which I sent it, and it shall prosper in all of his ways. Yeah, I know you've been tested. I know you've been tried. I know you've been troubled. I know 2020 has been challenging. But Isaiah says, in the moment of transition, in the moments of chaos and confusion, I saw the Lord high and lifted up. Yeah, I'm going through changes. I can admit that. Yeah, we going through changes. We can admit that. But the good news is he shows up in the midst of my change. Somebody ought to say, I know that's right. I know that's right. Man, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me for the Remix Sunday nights. Man, I'm so grateful and thankful that you all are in the room or in the space on tonight. Wow, he keeps on showing up, even in the midst of my change. That's why I love him. That's why I thank him, because he keeps on showing up. Man, I'm done tonight. We're gonna take communion. Gonna listen to a little video. Then we're gonna get on up out of here. But I dare you to take your finger and just simply say, I thank him because he keeps on showing up. You got to say that with some emphasis. He keeps on showing up. I heard my auntie say tonight, she said, look, when the Spirit comes upon me, when God comes into my presence, I don't apologize. I go for it because I'm thankful that he keeps on showing up. He keeps on showing up. So listen, if you got your cracker and if you got your juice and you want to participate in communion with us, we're just going to take communion real quick. This morning, some of my members like, we didn't do communion. I said, didn't you hear the message? It's change. You can take communion anytime. As long as he is here in the midst. Communion is just about remembering what he did for you and I. Paul says as often as you do it. Truth of the matter is we can take it every day if we want. So if you want to participate in communion with us, it's just simply remembering what Christ did, death, burial, resurrection. Right where you are, right where you are. And the bread just simply represents his broken body. His broken body, which was broken for you and I. Crown on his head, thorns in his wrists and in his ankles, his broken body. He hung on the cross for you and I. Cup, juice, simply represents the blood that was shed for you and I on Calvary's cross. The Bible declares that without blood, there is in fact no remission of our sins. So as you take it tonight, just simply remember what he did for you, the price that he paid for you. The fact that even in the midst of those changes, he showed up. Because the Bible declares that he could have called on legions of angels, but he didn't. He stayed on that cross and he died that you might live. So as you receive it tonight, receive it with reverence, receive it with joy, receive it with thanksgiving. Let's receive together his broken body. Amen. Cup. I know it was the blood. I know it was the blood for me. One day when I was lost, he died on the cross. I know it was the blood for me. Let's receive it with thanksgiving. Amen. 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 I'm going through changes, but he keeps on showing up. He keeps on showing up. Let's go ahead and rock this song out that I played this morning. I think it's fitting. Here we go. We're going to get on up out of here. Let me know if you're feeling it.
Yeah. Oh, I've been going through changes. It's all good. Everything's going right. The prime of my life, I was doing the best I'd ever done, I ever did. Then I started going through changes. And all of a sudden my days were not as bright. I was asking, Lord, what in the world is going on? And then I heard the song say you're going through changes. Oh, but you say you
Wanna change,
yeah, but in order to
change,
gotta
go through some changes.
So I started reading the Word of God, trying to feed my spirit man. Now I know I can't do anything, y'all. It's through Jesus. Oh yes, though I'm going through changes, I don't have to worry. Send my weakest
Wade's word of the day. We just come not to tear down, but to
lift
lift up. Grateful and thankful tonight that he keeps showing up in the midst of our changes. Yeah. But you say you want to change, in order to change, go through some changes. Yeah. Man, I got to get out of here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Continue to be encouraged. If this word has been a blessing to you, do your boy a favor. Text tag somebody. Tell them to meet us in this room. Hey, every night, 8 p.m. That's every night of the week. We getting healing, y'all. Appreciate each and every one of you. Hey, hey, hey. Hey. Come on. I gotta get out of here. But I'm glad tonight that it keeps showing up, even when I'm going through changes. Hey. I gotta get out of here. Talk to y'all real soon. Everybody be blessed. Peace.